right, hey guys, Sam here with you on a Saturday afternoon. It's August 18th, and I am back for a second take here on a look at Monero to Bitcoin. Now, I had mentioned that I would be recording this yesterday, and I had actually done a recording for our members, posted it up, thought, okay, well, that was easy enough, all well and good. And after posting it to the membership, it took about 3-4 minutes before I had a very astute student of mine alert me to the fact that I had several errors in my count here. And I thought, oh, okay, all right, well, he didn't know what he's talking about. I went through that count. Everything's just fine. He must be in error. Well, I'll be damned if he wasn't absolutely right. And so I thought I would record this for a couple of reasons. One, I want to give you an accurate count here. Two, there are a couple of things to learn here. So from a teaching perspective, I thought there might be some value here. So I'm going to do two things. So first, because for YouTube followers, I wanted to share this this website with you. There's one of the reasons that I was looking at Monero. So let's start there. Now, then we're going to return to this count here, and then maybe a few things to pick up and learn here. So one of the reasons that I was looking at Monero is that this is a website that I've been using quite frequently lately, and I like it. I'm going to show you why. So it's called CoinCheckup. Now maybe you know about it. I hadn't known about it until recently, but I do very much like it. So it would not be unlike CoinMarketCap or some of these other sites where they're giving you a full rundown of the entire crypto space. But there's a lot of detail here, and I like the way that they organize the information. So at the very least, I wanted to share this website. So again, it's CoinCheckup.com. Now they do some interesting things here. So here's your standard. Okay, it would look much like any of these other sites here. So you're going to get a rundown here, and I will typically, whether I'm on TradingView or CoinMarketCap or CoinGecko or name your site, I will typically organize them. I want to see where the volume is. Excuse me, I'm still dealing with this cold on the tail end of it. Pardon me. So here I will typically organize it by volume. I want to see where volume is taking place. But here they also do some algorithmic scoring here, which is very interesting. Now, I'm not going to take you through the details of how they do their scoring because I would encourage you to come here, give the site a visit, and look through this. Well, often now what I'll do is I'll organize them and go down based on their algo score here, much like I used to do when I would mention using CoinGecko. In the way that they were ranking coins here, I like the way these guys are doing it here. So that again, I'll let you read through how they're coming up with this ranking, but it's really quite good. Now, what's interesting here, if we rank them per their algorithmic scoring here, we get Ethereum Classic is the highest on that level here at 4.68. Monero's number 2, Bitcoin all the way down here at number 5. Kind of interesting. So we'd looked at Ethereum Classic by request just a day or two ago. So I said, all right, let's take a look at Monero and see what's going on there. So if you were to click on Monero here, and again, we're not going to spend too much time here, but again, just showing you what I think where there's value here. So now you can come down here, you can read more about how they're coming up with this algorithmic scoring that they're doing. But additionally, there is a ton of information about all the cryptocurrencies that I think there's real value here. So if you're interested in something beyond just what the technicals look like, there's a lot of information for you to review here. So a couple of things that I like. One of them here is this particular tab. What's the purpose of this cryptocurrency? Why do they exist? What problem do they solve? What value do they add? What is their purpose for existence here? So there's a lot of coins here where some will be very obvious here. You'll be clear. Oh, I understand. Well, they're solving a problem here. They're taking out efficiency. There's great utility here. Whatever. But there's good information here. So I would encourage you to look through some of this. So you've got, of course, there's going to be analysis here. So this goes into their algorithmic scoring here. So the additional information here, you can always dig in and if you want to read more about how they're coming up with these ratings and rankings. You've got predictions, which is interesting. This is tied to money supply. Again, I'll let you guys kind of read through this and sort of some interesting ideas as money flows into. If money flowing into the cryptocurrency market, it's giving you a relative idea of where you might expect Monero to go as the increase in money supply moves into crypto. So there's some good ideas, some fuel for thought, if you will, here. Of course, there are charts here, so you can look at it in their charts, but they also have a direct link. So here's the per market cap, but if you wanted to look at it within trading view, not that I would necessarily do analysis here, but if you wanted to, oh, it's not giving me much history there. Let's see if I go to a 4 hour here. There we go. So, but if you wanted to do some analysis here, you can. So it's just a worthwhile site that I wanted you to see. I use it daily now, so very much like it. So I wanted to share that with you here. But with all of that said now, and this is being potentially a resource for you to consider that I think is worthwhile using, let's go back over to the chart. Again, I'm so sorry, excuse me. Sorry, just still so much phlegm. Okay, so here we go. So this is what I did. So actually what I did was first I said, okay, well, if we're gonna look at Monero, well, let's look at where the volume is. So I think over here on TradingView, I brought up Monero and said, okay, where is most of the trading taking place? Well, look here. So in this case here in the last 24 hours that we sit here, and it was the same yesterday, that HIT BTC has the highest amount of Monero trading to Bitcoin. Well, I sort of looked at that and said, well, I happen to know that out of the, I don't know, 400, 500 members we have now, a very small percentage are trading on HIT BTC. I know a very large percentage are trading on Binance. Additionally, when you bring up the spread here on HIT BTC, we have these insane spikes here. It throws off a count, makes it harder to analyze it here. What do you do with that? Is it a bad tick or some insane market, or you don't know what it is? So I thought, okay, again, I'm so sorry. Let's go look at it. Let's look at it on Binance. So I bring it up on Binance, and now one of the things that is a factor and can be a factor when you're looking at coins that have additional history on other exchanges, but if you bring it up on Binance, for example, you're not going to get as much history. So my first error was being a little sloppy about what had happened over here. So I brought it up and just took a quick glance at it and said, all right, some crazy shit. So, okay, that looks like a 4, 5. Okay, so we get essentially a double top. That looks like that's a fifth. It, didn't get to target, and it rolls over. God darn it. Hang on 1 second. Okay, I'm back. I apologize. Trying to get through this without coughing into the mic. Anyway, so over here, so I'm looking at this and I'm thinking, all right, well, okay, some sort of pivot low to pivot high. All right, so we're front running. So there's an algo swing. Front run on the 50. Target is not met. Here's the target. So we get this fifth here and we roll over. So I'm just immediately thinking that, okay, well, all right, looks like A, B, and down we go for the C. So I just start, as I will typically do, I'm just going to do a quick cursory glance at it, and I'm thinking, all right, well, there's the A, that looks like a B, down we go. We've had an extended, this is a lot of subdivision, and we've had an extended C wave here. Okay, well, looks fair enough. Well, okay, there's 5 down. There's my 1 and my 2. 3, 4, down we go for a 5. I've got a good pivot. Maybe we've got a real pivot here. So I go through the whole thing. Well, here's what my student noticed right away. And I was just, frankly, too lazy to check, right? So shame on me. So that's why I pulled it, because I wouldn't want to put up content that wasn't accurate, because we take the way we approach teaching students and YouTube subscribers, Twitter followers, we take it seriously. So I had to immediately pull that, because here's what I did not check. Right, so if we know for a fact whether or not we have a diagonal or whether we have an impulsive structure here, the one thing that is absolutely solid in the Elliott rule count is that the third wave can never be the shortest. Doesn't have to be the longest, can't be the shortest. Well, take note here. So I did this. Pardon me, I failed to do this. So he said, hey, Sam, I think on that count you just did that wave 3 is your shortest wave. And I'm thinking, oh, no, I would have spotted that. But I'll be damned if I come over here and I take my wave 1 and check it from what I have proposed as my wave 2, and I got a problem. All right, wave 3, as I have it labeled, is not longer than wave 1. Well, then I have to think, well, wait a minute, how would that relate to the 5th wave? Maybe the 5th wave is shorter. Well, lo and behold, this you probably can't see that with the work I have done over here. We are coming to the tick. That's to the tick. So wave 1 and wave 5 are identical in length, leaving only wave 3 to be the shortest, because I already know now that wave 1 is longer than wave 3. So Shame on me, right? For not double checking that. And that can be. Now, that can lead to inaccurate counts, which can lead to inaccurate trading and inaccurately identifying probability zones or depth of retracement. That can be an expensive mistake that would be easy to make. It's easy for me to make it. It's Friday. I'm kind of hurrying through it. I've done 600 videos, and I'm thinking, I got this. Well, there you go. Again, shame on me for not checking that. So we know that this count cannot be accurate. Now, it actually had another spot in it that, again, I just take you through just for the teachable moment here. I had done a little bit of a retrofit here. So if you'll note here, let's see, if we do it this way. So if this were the low here, if this were the one low, right, at first glance, that's what I thought. Well, if this is the one low, well, this can't work here because I have wave 4 overlapping wave 1 within the midst of a third wave. Right? That can't fly because I cannot have anything other, if this is going to be an impulse, right? And with wave 4 not overlapping wave 1 as I had it counted, well, I cannot have an overlap of the fourth wave of the 1. So this is invalidated. This cannot be the third wave for those two reasons. Well, what I had kind of thought to myself, oh, okay, well, it must be here because look what happens here. So this pivot here prior to this is to the tick here. So it's a perfect tap of that low. So I'm thinking, okay, well, this must be an A expanded B wave going beyond the wave 1 low, and then up we go for the C. So it works. All right. Well, if you look more closely in here, it actually looks more like a 3 wave than a 5. So I'm now I've got really what now I'm hyper analyzing and I'm thinking, I think I have that wrong too. Well, if that's actually the pivot of this swing, and this is the pivot, well, then this cannot be a third wave. Can't be. So then you got to look at it and you go, okay, well, shit, man, does it really matter? Well, absolutely, it matters. Now, here's the bad news from trying to create a teachable moment. In actual fact here, it doesn't matter in this case. That's the bad news. But here's what the point of taking you through this. It may not matter in this case. It may not. It might, but right now it looks like it may not matter. We can get to a completed sequence here despite the inaccuracy of my count. When I show you the corrected count, you'll understand why I say that. But I absolutely promise you, if you don't maintain that discipline, if you don't check these things, like I was too quick to just assume that on eyeballing it, I could say, oh, 3 looks longer than 1. You got to check them because that will come back to bite you in the ass, and that will cost you money if you don't maintain that discipline. And I didn't. Excuse me. So I would love to give you the teachable moment here where I could come to this and say, well, that can't be a pivot because of X, Y, and Z. Turns out it may not actually matter. So that's the bad news from a teacher's perspective. But what I want you to understand is that eventually that will cost you money. Sooner or later, that will bite you in the ass if you're sloppy about applying those rules. It's inevitable. So, all right, if you're a subscriber here, trust me on this, right? You don't want to get those wrong. Eventually, that will lead to you'll lose money. Okay, so let's back into this. So if I have to pick this all apart, because then I started working through this and it's like, God damn, I mean, I could not get something to fit. I couldn't get this to work because I kept bumping into this as a problem. So I'm thinking, oh, okay, well, maybe it's a diagonal. Well, oh, wait, can't be a diagonal because in a diagonal, wave 4 absolutely must overlap wave 1. All right, well, then I'm thinking, oh, maybe this is a very short 3. Oh, no, that can't work because I'm thinking, oh, maybe that's the 3, but this is the overlap. And we've got an ABC 5. No, I can't make that work. So I'm back and forth. I cannot get a count that works. Now, there is no chart that I in 25 years of doing this, that I could not ultimately, finally get a count that worked. Right? It's one of the incredible things about Elliott Wave, and you can say it's a negative, or you can appreciate how inclusive it is. And what are we now? I don't know, 80 years, more than that from when he first proposed the idea that markets move in the dynamic of trending in 5s and correcting in 3s. Now there's a lot more complexity to it than that, but just in the basic premise. I could not get a count that fit. So now I'm reaching out to my senseis. I'm putting it up in the chart challenge. I'm going, who's got a count that works here? I cannot get a count that fits here. It's just driving me crazy. Well, ultimately now I turn to my partner, who may be the best technician I've ever met. He's if you haven't seen some of Quan's work, I want to encourage you to do that. So I reached out to him. Now he's on his phone. He's out of the office. He's on his phone. He said, I can't really break into the detail, but it sure looks to me like that what you have labeled as a B wave looks more like an X wave. And I'm going, how the hell is he getting an X wave out of that? And I'm going, wait a minute. So what I ultimately had to do, and this, as you're learning Elliott Wave, this might be something that will be useful to you. So I had to just go, wait a minute, take everything off the chart. Let's strip it bare. Let's start absolutely from the pivot low over here, because I've got something wrong. And it was the laziness of just assuming that this was the 5-wave sequence. I didn't take the time to work through this. Now, sometimes when I'm doing a video for you guys, and I'm over here and it's 2 years old, we're 2 years prior to what's happening over here, I'm like, oh, shit, man, do these guys really care about this? Well, as a teacher, I think there's value, so I tend to do it. But in this case, again, it's Friday afternoon. Maybe I was just lazy. I've been sick for 3 weeks. Whatever reason, I was just lazy about it. And I said, all right, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, upon much closer review and getting that little suggestion from my partner saying, that doesn't look like a B wave. Well, here's what ultimately we came to. Sorry for that. So here was the work. So I'm going to take this all the way over here. So this was the mistake, right? I had not done the work over here. I don't want that. I don't know why that keeps coming up. I think it's because I have it twice, because I wanted to show you the correct and the incorrect version. Well, here was the mistake I had made. So I had just assumed that this was the pivot, that this was the high. But if you actually take the time to work through this, we get the completed 5-wave here. Right, and it was relatively technical. So as I recall here, so if we went if we went from the low, what I was playing as the low here, we get this. So we had this is a bad example here, but you get a tick or two through the 65. So algos would have reversed; they would have gotten it eventually here. But so we go from the golden. So ultimately here, this double top. Could that be? It could be. Maybe they took it from here. And then here's the buy at the 50, so it's a target that's unrealized. They don't get target. Well, but the point being is that this was the completed 5, and it wasn't until I took the time to go back 2 years, or what is that, a year plus in time, that I was able to say, okay, now I understand it. And Quan was absolutely right. That is an X wave, because here's what I had missed. If this is the 5. Then this opens up all sorts of new possibilities for me, because if that's the 5, then I can get a very clean A wave into this. Now, from that A wave, if this is going to be a B wave, well, we have to get it in 3. So I get this very clear leading diagonal here. Right, so and with this, see again, back to the old version, I had just thought, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, up we go, and we get an ending diagonal to complete the 5th. No, not the case. Upon closer review, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, leading diagonal. Where can I find a leading diagonal? In an A wave or a 1 wave? Okay, there's my A wave. Well, down we come. Now I get little A, B, C into my B wave, and then I finish it with an impulse. Right, 1, 2, 3, 4. Look at this. Doesn't overlap. Spares it by a tick or 2, and then we push up for the 5. Well, that's in blue giving me here. Right? If you can see that, that's giving me an A, B, C into an expanded B wave. Right? So again, now the whole thing changes. Now this is my B wave. So now coming down here, again, go back to the old version, I'm thinking, oh, that's my A wave. Well, in the correct version, it's not the A wave, it's the C wave. So it's completing the A and the B and the C. So as I come down here, 1, 2, looks like I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to give me my 3. I've got this little ABC, so that's a bit of a tell, that little ABC. So that's more than likely, that's my 4th wave here. So if I take it from my 3 to my, right, so we come to the 38 to the tick. Now here's where it is a little tricky. So what we end up with here, on the assumption that I do now have the count correctly, we get a truncated 5th. All right, so I get the diagonal structure here to take me to the fifth, but I don't get the new low. So I do get the 5-wave structure. 1 in white, 2, 3, ABC into the 4, 38 to the tick, unrealized target here, and we scream higher. Now, here's why, at first glance, I think Quan was looking at that saying looks like an X wave, because in the guidelines for an X wave, Elliott Wave International wants to see these going anywhere from 786 to 90%. Right, so if you look at this retracement here from this pivot to what, now if we do it from the absolute low like an algo would do it, right, we get on an absolute low here, we're coming right to the 786. If you do it from, as an Elliottician would do it, right, it's slightly different. You would do it from the lowest low, or from this double bottom here, right, if this is my truncated fifth here, right, well here, so we're 786 to the tick. Right, so at first glance, that's why over here I was thinking, oh, ABC into a B wave, so this is my A, B, and down we go. Well, here's where it breaks down. Right, so back to the corrected count here. If that's my X wave, well, that changes the count coming down, because now I'm looking for an ABC. All right, do you see that? So the whole thing changes. So here's the W, not the A wave. Here's the X wave, which is very consistent with where you're looking for that X wave, like a B wave, right? So 786. Then we come down, 1, 2, here's the 3, here's the little ABC into my 4, and then that count and this wave pattern here that was so problematic because of this 4 overlapping the 1 now fits much better as a leading diagonal. And as you'll recall, and when I said, this looks more like a 3-wave here. This looks like we've got an A, B, C into that, and then this looks like an A, B, C into that third. So the whole thing now plays much better as a leading diagonal because it was a problem as an impulse. So I get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 down into this ABC. Where'd my 5 go? There it is. Okay, so let me finish. So as I come down from this, I come 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, completing the fifth of my A wave here. Do you see this in yellow? So from this pivot here, I get a very detailed A wave. I get a lot of subdivision in that A wave. 1, 2, 3, ABC into the 4, and then I finish with an ending diagonal. Thus, and of course, just to reiterate, in a diagonal, wave 4 it absolutely must overlap wave 1. So now we fit. So now we know that this, rather than me trying to fit an ABC into some sort of expanded flat, now I know that I've got this right as an ABC into a 1 wave. Here's my 2, down for the 3, overlap the 1, I'm down for the 5. Now I've got a completed 5-wave structure. There's my A wave, my second A wave after this first A wave. Well, now with that A wave in, well, now I can go A, B, and I get a short C, but I've got 3-wave structure here into this double top. There's my B wave. Now we come down in 5. Now there is some question. Let's take it to a 30-minute, right, as to whether or not the low is in, right? So that, and time will tell here. So let's get this now tightened up here a little bit. So take a look here now as we come from, so here's the ABC. So let me label it so you can see what I'm talking about here. So from here, here's my A wave. Looks like that's B into my C. So let's change that color. We'll go to blue. So here's that's my ABC into my B wave here, right? So from the A wave low, ABC into my B wave. 1, 2. Well, let's check. Be the last time I don't check one. Okay, so here's from the length of my 1. And get that on there down to my 2. All right, so where are we looking for the highest probability? So first thing we're checking, well, is it longer? All right, well, we can be pretty solid about that. Well, so here's the highest probability zone for my wave 3, right? So between the 1618 and 175, we get a little through that, but then it's upon reaching that distance that I get the retracement here. So this is the deepest retracement, so that leads me to think that's my 4. I do get the ABC structure in there, so you can see the little, if I open it up here, you can see the little counter wave here. So we get an A, B into a C. That gives me my 4 here. So let's zoom back out. And then we come down, and it sure does look like we finish in 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now there were a few things a few teachable moments down here as well. All right, so let me line all this up. All right, so is the low in? Well, there's a couple things to look at. we can certainly look at this. So we can look at the wave 3 length from the 4. So we're right where you'd anticipate it. So it looks like we had a little algo reaction here, but it had more to go. So even here, then I went down to the 5-minute on this. Now here's where there's a teachable moment as relates to what algos are typically doing. So if we look here, so I think this was technical as well, if I recall. Right, this had a 1 tick break of the 65. We know a wave 2 anywhere from the 50 to 786. All right, so I'm kind of leaning into this as the completion pivot down here. Because I can get that good subdivision, particularly finishing in the 5th here, and you can see here that this, again, is interesting. Note here, excuse me, right, that's a tell, right? So 1, 2, 3, the fact that the 4 comes up, and again, I promise you that's not random, that we don't overlap, that we stay to the tick, we stay inside of it, it leads me to believe that that's a 4 coming down. So it looks to me like we're complete here, and we have the potential now, just the potential for a new motive wave to be underway, which would confirm and validate this as a potentially significant low. And does that mean the correction's over? Well, way too soon to be saying that, but we certainly have a significant reaction off of a completed count structure here that leads us to believe that this may be a significant low. Well, no, this is I did this in the video where I made that error, but the lesson here is just as valuable. Okay, so take note what happens here. So from this 4, so first thing we're looking for, so if this is going to finish in 5, it would look like this. So if we go 1, 2, 3 into the 4, and we come down for the 5, we get a double bottom, very common. We get a double bottom into the 5th, right? So you know that that's a 5th wave that was not did not realize its target, because the target would not be a double bottom here. So let me change that color here so we don't get confused on it. Okay, and then let's take this up a level, up a degree. We'll go to micro for that. Okay, so now it makes sense. All right, so from that 4, we get a 1, 2, 3. All right, that looks fairly solid. So again, from here we go look at the length of the 2. We're right between the 50 and the 786. That's absolutely sweet spot. Again, take note, I'm on the 5-minute, which I rarely go down to, but I wanted to show this to you. So we go from the 5-minute, or pardon me, we go down to the 1 wave. I get a 3 wave into my 2, right in the sweet spot for my 2 between the 50 and the and the 618. That's right where we want it. And boy, do we get a reaction. Look what we do to the tick. Right, so when we've done this and we've gone to the negative 100 to the tick, so we just blowing through first, second, we get to 3rd algo target. Well, that sure looks like a wave 3. So if we look at it here, and we take from the wave 2, so now this is deep for a wave 4, right? But we don't threaten the wave 1. So because of the ABC in here, this plays best as a wave 4. So 1, 2, there's the impulse. ABC into my 4. It's deep, but it's not that radically uncommon for a wave 4 to go to the 50, even a little beyond, right? We don't threaten the wave 1. So ABC into the 4, down we go. Right, so what does that mean from an algorithm's perspective? That means unrealized target. All right, so let's get this in the right. Okay, so there's from the 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So unrealized target. So then you're thinking, wait a minute. Right, Sam, you're always telling me, I got to think about what the algos did last. Well, let's take a look at what they did last. So we know for this, I want to encourage you to be open-minded to the idea that if you see this kind of action here at a 50, that's an algorithm that's making that play, because algorithms are happening on every different time frame, from the 1 minute to the 1 week, right? So from here, so that's likely an algo play, right? So we've got a dominant swing, high, swing low. They sell the 50, unrealized target. So that is not a front run here. They didn't decide to take a front run. That's too far away. Well, look what happens. Stopped out here, right? That's where they exit on the break of the 65. Well, what does that mean? Well, that means that the algorithm that sold here lost money on that trade. Not a lot, but now they're out of the market. Well, and I've shown this many times. So what does that mean if an algorithm has exited the market? Well, I'm not saying that what they do here is flip and they do a stop and reverse. It's not that they reverse and go long there. What they do is then they take the next swing, high, low, or low, high, whatever the case may be. In this case, it's a swing low to a swing high. They take the next 50. So if we go from this low, so immediately that algorithm is written to just reverse and take the next 50. Well, what happens here? The next move down, right to the 50. Who's sitting there waiting to buy that? Well, what is what I should say. A piece of software is sitting there to buy that. And what is their goal? To take it from the 50 to target. Right, so we go to target, we get the reaction. It still has more legs in it. We get all the way through third target. But this pivot right there. So the algo that lost, that exited here, now makes it back plus some right there. All right, do you see that? So that's a good example. So for us trying to think about, wait a minute, because right, all we're trying to do with Elliott Wave is just organize what appears to be absolute chaos. How do you organize the randomness of price action? Well, that's what Elliott Wave is trying to do, to create probability zones based on what has happened historically, often will happen again. So as we look at this and say, okay, well, if we're operating under the premise that I may have a significant low here because I have completed that entire WXY with perfect subdivision, upon getting it corrected, that I have a potential hard pivot down here. Well, how am I going to know? Well, the only way I'm going to get some validation of that idea is by getting a motive wave off of this low. Well, that sure looks to me like I've got one, at least that started. Right now, we don't, it looks to me like this could be 3, 4, 5. So it looks like I might have, well, let's check it. Again, as I'm not going to make that mistake again, let's look at the length of the wave 1. Projected from the 2. Well, here's my high probability zone for a wave 3. All right, it looks to me like we've gone 1, 2. Well, it actually looks like we've got subdivision in here. So even down in the 5 minute, I'm getting subdivision. So it looks like I've got 1, 2, 3 ABC into my 5 down here. Again, let me get that down a degree here so it makes sense. All right, so it looks like we could have 1, 2. I've got all the subdivision I need here to give me an impulsive structure. So I've got a good candidate here for a third. Well, what's going to be important if this is an impulse and this is going to stay impulsive and I'm going to stay with this 5-wave structure, right? So right now, the odds of this turning into a diagonal are less because I have this impulsive structure in my third. Right, and when a diagonal, we'd be looking for an ABC. This action here looks much more like an impulse wave. So now I'm looking for, excuse me, I'm so sorry about, excuse me. So now I'm looking for the wave 2, come here, to my wave 3, right, where I'm looking for, well, look, lo and behold, what do we get right there? Right to the 50. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that we're done here. It's very common for the wave, for the A wave, for the A wave to rip right to the 50, and then you get an algo that kicks in and takes advantage of it. But we got a couple of things to consider. We've got the all the way halfway back, so we're at the 38. From an Elliott perspective, we're looking for a relationship of the third relative to where that might affect us, looking for the fourth. So this straight down to the 50, well, what does that mean? Likely an algorithm has stepped in to buy there. But from an Elliott perspective, we'd be looking for something like this into a B wave, and then we'd be looking for, if that's going to be a B, we're looking for something like this to take us down for the C before we go up for the 5. So that would be the path, that would be the textbook path you'd be looking for. And then we'd end up with it never fails that screws me up. We'd be looking for the 4, potentially down here at the 618. Note we could go to the 618 here and not threaten the wave 1 because this is already completed. So from here, this straight move down here does not look corrective. That looks impulsive. So that would imply that the A wave may be underway. Right, so I'm down here on the 5 minutes, so there's not much more subdivision I can look for here. But that's where the 5 minute can be helpful, is trying to see if you have any subdivision here. I just wouldn't be worth going down to the 1 minute. So I just look at that and think, okay, likely there's the reactive sell-off. So it looks to me like now we'd be looking for a test of the high. That's what the B is, to try and get to a new high. If it rolls over, that creates the C wave. We're looking for the finish in 5 to set up the move from the 4 to the 5. So here's the next trade, in my view. It would be on the long side, but now we're down. Let's get off the 5 minute and maybe go back to the 30 minute and see, well, where would this put us in the very largest degree? I guess I've got to go back further out. Let's go 2 hour and think about where we've got to get to. Well, we've got some pretty obvious pivots that are going to be in play here that we're going to have to deal with. So from here, just taking this double top to my absolute low here. Well, this is going to be interesting. So a couple things we're going to have to work through. So note here, we've got some structural resistance right next to the 50. So prior support, potentially now offering the resistance. So if that were to play that way, all that's really doing is if we get, so let me do it this way. So if we get the 5th up here, right? So potentially now that creates a one wave for us. So from that low, that could be the 1, we go 2, then we go 3, 4, and 5. Now let's get that up to a degree that would make sense. So we can go, we can go minuet. Okay, so the idea is we'd be looking to put in the one wave here, and then if you're a more conservative trader and you want to let this establish itself as a fully completed motive wave, in this case, assuming that wave 4 doesn't go any deeper, that we get an impulsive structure for a one wave, and then the more conservative play is to wait for the B, or to wait for the 2, excuse me. All right, then you're looking for this, this, and this. That's the longer term play. If we have a good pivot down here, if this is going to stay in with this impulsive structure, the next real, so sorry. God, that's frustrating. The next really solid trade here is waiting for the 2 wave of this larger degree. So we let the 5 complete, you wait for the 2, you try and get on board for the 3 wave of what, it could be the 1 wave relative to where this could be going. So, as I said when I started, the bad news is as a teachable moment, it ends up not mattering. Whether we've got the old count here, which gets you down to an ABC finishing. So if I blow this up here and then we go, let me go back to go to the 30-minute. So if this is going to be completing down here, we still are operating on the assumption with that incorrect count that I've finished here with an ABC. Well, I know for a fact that's not the correct count now, but it still implies a hard pivot up here and the potential for a new trend to get underway here. So, right, not the ideal teachable moment. I would have rather come and said, well, it can't be X, so it must be Y. So if you trade that, you're going to lose some money, or the odds are that you're going to be in trouble right off the bat because of mislabeling the count coming down because you didn't apply the rules. So the bottom line is rules matter. Right? So, if you can agree, you can disagree, and you can say, well, see, look at that example. It didn't matter there. Well, I promise you, eventually it will matter. And if you don't want to take my word for it, let the market be your teacher. The market will much more expensive tuition than mine. All right. So with all of that, that's what I come up with. It was kind of an interesting exercise, and my rushing through account. Right. So I'm glad I was able to come back and correct that. I will post this for my members, and we'll have this up here on YouTube as well for anyone who's interested in Monero or is a student of Elliott Wave. All right, so hope that's helpful. With that, I'll wrap it for the day, and perhaps we'll see you over on our website or our public Discord. Yeah, you learn about all that in the text that's underneath the video. All right, guys, have a good Saturday.